Defensible space is about more than just cutting down these light, flashy fuels. You also have to completely remove this from the property because on the ground, it's still a wildfire threat. The water that's flushed through the engine, every bilge pump, and every ballast on this boat, 140 degrees, it's warm enough to kill invasive species. Even though our reservoirs are not completely full, Tumwa not yet asking people to reduce their outdoor water use. That's because most of the water in the river right now is from runoff. If we don't use it right now, it will just flow downstream and go to waste. A major concern right now is this stuff, cheatgrass. There's a lot more of it this year because we got so much water this year and now it's starting to dry out. Here's what it looked like a few weeks ago. It was all nice and green. Now it's starting to turn brown, which means it's ready to burn. Most commonly, the issues happen here in one of the county's ditches or culverts. If one or both of these culverts happens to get clogged with leaves or debris, you're in for a lot of trouble real quick. Water can start to rise to the point where it's well above these culverts and you end up underwater, the water over the roadway. While you may experience some TSA delays flying out of Reno Tahoe Airport, it's more likely that you'll see them when you're flying into Reno Tahoe, flying out of airports like O'Hare or JFK. Sarah Noah, the rain's recent effect most obvious right here. Flows in the Truckee River today are about twice what they were at this time last week. Well, Sarah, right here is the movie theater in Victorian Square, but just across this street right here, the future home of 236 apartment units. Sarah Noah, this is the damage left over from a fire last night at the Golden Legacy Collision Center. The fire started in a trash can here at ground level. It spread up this pillar and ended up actually burning in this awning. Well, Noah, when this road is finished, it will mean significant progress for northern Nevada. As was pointed out today by state officials, this area of Story County has seen a significant amount of growth in the last few years, due in part to Tesla, but also due in part to Nevada's friendly business climate. Of course, employees of the Gigafactory and other businesses out here will depend upon this new road to get to areas like Silver Springs, but also the extension of USA Parkway is expected to be a boon for Silver Springs, Dayton, and Urington, which will have quicker access to Reno. The devastation is incredible. Miles of scenic tree line left blackened by a relentless blaze.
This is one of the biggest fires California has seen in many, many years.
Over 80,000 acres charred, and it continues to rage. Officials are placing hope in the granite peaks of Yosemite, which could act as a natural fire line.
Where the fire is going, there's large granite rock croppings, and that's going to be able to work to our advantage because it's going to be able to slow the rate of spread without having to put firefighters in harm's way.
So really it's possible that this fire is not going to stop until it runs out of fuel.
Correct.
Here's a good example of what happens that makes this fire grow so quickly. The ladder fuels send it up the top of the tree, and that's when it starts to crown from tree to tree. On the front lines of the blaze, 3,700 personnel trying to quell the already thirsty flames.
Every agency in California probably has some type of apparatus or some type of personnel in this fire, as well as throughout the nation.
Amongst them, the Reno Fire Department's Engine 1. It was called in to protect some of the 5,000 structures that are still threatened by the fire. The temperatures are pretty mild here, and so is the wind, but the story is a lot different about 15 miles up the road at Donner Summit. By the time you got to the Donner Lake interchange, the roads were slick and drivers were chaining up to get over the pass.
Yeah, it's no problem. I've done it all my life, so it's pretty easy.
Easy now, but the drive might not be so simple in the morning. With snow levels dropping, this driver's concerned his daily commute's gonna be a little longer tomorrow.
I'm probably gonna have to leave about 4 in the morning just to get up here at 7.
Once you actually reach the summit, the snow was coming down thick. Trucks crawled along, partially because of the slick roads, partially because of the limited visibility. Where many people stuck to the roads, others decided to have a little fun and go skiing in the parking lot of Boreal.
Well, if the mountain's closed, we found something better to do. So, I mean, and this is free, so no shame here, man.
Earlier today, skiing through this parking lot would have meant grinding asphalt, but the storm brought in a good 1.5 feet of fresh snow.
I hope the storms keep coming and that the pack stays good and deep, and we're able to have a good year with a good base.
Sarah, it's really something that's so simple, it's a surprise nobody has ever thought of it before. The BLM is placing water tanks like this one in fire-prone areas around the region so firefighters don't have to drive as far to fill up their engines with water. Out here in the rurals, the hardest part about fighting fire is finding water.
The last few years have been rough for us, finding these water sources that used to be there year-round. A lot of those have dried up.
That proved to be a problem at last year's Coleman fire when personnel had to drive several miles to get water.
Our turnaround times to water sources from the fire to the water source and back was about 2 hours.
For our fuel type, light, flashy fuels, if we can show up and get it knocked down in that first hour, that's key.
So a 2.5-hour turnaround time, that's just not acceptable. That's why this year, 18,000-gallon water tanks have been placed in fire-prone areas.
An engine has 500 gallons, and you have something that you can get water fairly, quickly to suppress the fires in the initial stages. Those will cut down on turnaround time for those tenders and or engines, filling to suppress the fire.
All an engine has to do is drive up, connect, and start pumping. The fill process takes about 5 minutes.
We have a total of 8 tanks that are set up on the Northern California BLM. The most northern one is in Modoc County, northeastern corner next to the Oregon border.
Of the 5 in Washoe County and 3 in California, all are in places not recognizable to the average person, but they're in key sage-grouse territory that needs to be protected.
These habitats have a really great importance for a lot of people, and we're doing our best to improve our protection of them.
There is, of course, good reason for the protection of the sage-grouse and the addition of these tanks. It's all part of a plan approved by the United States Secretary of the Interior that keeps the greater sage-grouse off of the endangered species list. And, of course, fire is the greatest threat to the sage-grouse. Reporting live in Laston County, Colin Lygren, KOLO 8 News Now. Moving the cable foot by foot this morning.
Do you want me to stop it at the next one?
Sky Tavern volunteers assembling a chairlift.
Goes this way. Now up. We're getting them all back on with a bunch of help from a bunch of volunteers.
Every year, a portion of these chairs are removed so the clamps that connect the cable can be inspected.
You have to magnaflux them. You have to x-ray them, basically. You look for cracks. You make sure that everything's safe.
We disassemble them, we bring them into the shop, and then they put a special mixture on there with a big magnet, and then it will show the cracks in the grips. And like I said, we normally do 20%, but we did all 100% this year. There you go.
After everything's given the all clear, the lift is reassembled.
You lift them up there, and then the mountain manager, Ben, tightens all the hardware down, and the lift will be ready to run.
That has to happen 54 different times, one for each chair on the America lift. Find the chair, lift it up, clamp it down.
I'd say they're about 300 pounds apiece.
Find the chair, lift it up, clamp it down.
I've never seen it put together, but I've been on it before.
Never mind.
Find the chair, lift it up, and, as you know, clamp it down.
It's just all maintenance. Everybody does this. Everybody goes through this.
The process is repetitive, but made easier with volunteers.
Yeah, it's not too bad, especially when I got a good crew of guys here. Made today pretty fun and enjoyable, where when it's in a storm and extra cold out, it's not too much fun, but we had a good time today.